woke up about 3 in the morning, and there was a bright white light, the brightest light I've ever seen, right outside my window, my bedroom window. And I'm trying to look at it, and I'm hearing this whooshing sound going on, and it terrified me. I was like, what the heck is this? I jumped back in my bed, put the blanket over my head, closed my eyes. I just said, this isn't real. No, please, not again. This is, and I don't even know why I thought that, but I'm just putting that out there. So I wake up the next day. I didn't even remember it, but something happened in the middle of the day, and it was like a memory bubble. Just like, and all of a sudden it came back, and I was like, oh my God, I missed my opportunity. Like, if that was like an actual, like, if that was aliens and ET, I just missed my opportunity to say hi to them. So I'm like, I hope I get that opportunity again. So a couple months later, get that opportunity again. So there's a bright light again. It's about, again, 3, 4 in the morning. And I stayed in my bed this time, and I just waited. Because the last time I felt the white light and this whooshing like envelop my entire body, and then from that point on I didn't remember, but this time it enveloped it and I felt it, and all of a sudden I was whooshing, and I was like in an elevator, and the elevator opens, okay, and I'm in like an office work building type space, and there's 3 humans there at a table, and so I go over to them, and they're like, hey, your daughter got here 30 minutes ago. I'm like, how's my daughter here? So I go over in the corner, and there's a little girl on the ground, and it's not my daughter because this was a hybrid baby. So I pick her up, and as I'm picking her up, my eyes catch some gray feet on the ground, and I slowly start scanning up, and this guy, it's gray alien, okay, real tall gray alien, and he's got a lab coat on, and he's holding what looks like a clipboard, and it terrified me. I'm like, oh my God, this is the initial fight or flight that they're always talking about on David Wilcock and all of them. This is it. Oh my God, wait, this is my opportunity to say hi. So I'm like, hi! You know, I'm like, oh my God. And he did not like that. And so he was like, don't look at me, don't talk to me, I will put you to sleep if you do this. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm not looking. So now they have us doing something, we're building something. And it was the way I saw it was, it reminded me of Lego spaceships. This was what we were doing. We were putting together Lego spaceships. So we do this for a little while, and then we got a break time. So as we're doing this break, I'm telling these people, I'm like, have you guys never heard of the space program? I'm like, you've never heard of this? I'm like, we got to find out where we're at. So I'm like trying to climb on counters, because there's like windows way at the top of the wall. And I want to see outside this window, and I look outside it, get on the counter, and it's all red sands. And I'm like, okay. And then I noticed to the left, to the right of me, that all the jewelry that I wear all the time had been taken off and put in this little spot. I'm like, that's kind of strange that my jewelry is off, but I'm like, okay, whatever. So I pick it up, and then at that moment, a little gray alien came in, and he had cleaning supplies, and he's like, hey guys, it's time, you know, we're getting ready to leave, it's time to go home. So I'm like, okay. So I start working on it, and I'm right next to him, and I look at him, and I say, I'm not gonna remember any of this, am I? And he smirked, and he went, nope. And then I'm in my body, and I did remember it all of it.
Way in. So I was driving into Florida, and it was so cool. And I was actually with my brother Todd, and on the way in, we were coming in, it was nighttime, and we seen something flying towards us, and it's like, we were looking at it. I actually didn't have my glasses on, but he was driving, and it's like, what is that? But it wasn't like strobing like an airplane, but you seen lights. We seen white lights, a green light, and a red light. And then, so I actually looked to get my glasses, but then I looked back up, and it's like really close to us. And I'm like, I don't know, but I don't think that's an airplane. You know, we're looking, I'm trying to make out like the shape of it. And literally while we're driving past it, it stops moving. It's just sitting on the side of the highway, stops moving altogether. And so when we drive past it, I look in the rearview mirror, and I'm looking, and I turn around, but it's like, it just flies behind us on the highway, and it flies off into the sky, and then you don't see it anymore. So I thought that was really cool and a nice way to welcome us into Florida.
And I was with my husband and my 2 kids, and we were watching a movie, and the curtains were closed, and during the movie we saw like a blue flash light up the whole house, and we're like, was that the movie? Or like, is that coming from outside? But it was nighttime, and our backyard, it's like completely covered, so it's not like there's like a light that would come through from the backyard. And but the flash came from like the fireplace area, so then that's why we looked towards the fireplace, and that's where the bright light came from. and we rewound the movie to see if it was a movie, but it wasn't the movie, and we were just like completely shocked. My husband and I were like, what the heck was that? And like we went outside the house and like looked around, and we're like, is there like a drone flying around or what? So anyway, the following week, my husband went to, he was like working out of state, and he was in his hotel room. And at like 1 a.m, he saw a flash in his hotel room again. And so that was like really cool because he got to see it more than once, and I only saw it once.
How you doing? I'm Rob, and I have many extraordinary experiences, and I'd like to share one of my favorites was my experience in Hawaii 4 years ago. I have to take a little, what happened prior to that. I was very suicidal, and I went on a retreat to try to heal myself, and this was my second retreat, and it was an extraordinary healing experience, swimming with dolphins, with whales, just day after day, bonding with people. And I was reminiscing, summarizing everything that happened to us over the 2 weeks that we were there. And my friend and I, Rosanna, were talking, and it was the last day there. We were leaving the next morning, and I was explaining how Hawaii is really the heart chakra of the planet, and I felt like my heart was so much more open now, and I just genuinely spoke to the sky. I was like, it's open for so much more, just like that. And I put my head down, and Rosanna gasped, and she was like, oh, the lights, look at the lights. And I looked up, and it was right where my head was facing, not over there or back there, exactly right where my head was facing. And there was triangle lights. It was like way out in space. It was either a giant ship with 3 lights on the corners, or it was 3 ships in a triangle formation, and they were flashing. And like it was like an alien had their hand on the switch, and they were flicking it on and off. And looking back, I see they were celebrating. They were celebrating, you know, what I was doing. To go from being suicidal to planning on ending my life to now healing myself and looking forward to the future. And now I'm doing retreats and hosting retreats myself and giving back. And it's just an extraordinary experience. I have so many more experiences to share. So thank you for allowing me to have this platform to share this story.
Howdy. Well, my experiences. So I've had rounds of experiences that were super beautiful pleasure as a child, and then I had terror rounds, back to the pleasure rounds. And my terror rounds were because I read this book, Communion, and I had these visuals. I started research about the military abductions and things like that. And so I spent a great deal of time in Door County, Wisconsin. And Door County is the peninsula there, and it was a UFO hotspot for a long time. It was, you know, the locals' tales kind of thing, but a lot of experiencers up there. And when the sun went down, I started feeling that energy, and at night, most nights I experienced sleep paralysis and the white lightning, and my mom was having experiences, but in a positive way. So she'd say, well, you don't sound ready, and they can hear you, so just say with your mind's eye, you know, I'm not ready. And if you really get scared, see, I'm Christ's child. I'm Christ consciousness, you know, and literally push it away. And so a lot of nights I'd pull those blankets up, and I'd have that paralysis, and I just had my eye on the doorway because I was waiting to see the small gray figure. And I didn't quite ever see those, but pretty much had some terrorizing night moments. Now, knowing everything I know, I can't wait to get back to Door County because I'm not feeling a lot of the military abduction stuff. I think it was just they were trying to make contact maybe. When I was a child in Portland, Oregon, I had contact with elementals. I saw a Bigfoot. Everything was just beautiful, and my mom enhanced that. She's like, oh, how wonderful, of course they're coming to you. You're a happy child. You know, everything was a beautiful thing. And then my teens, it went ugly. So getting out of that phase was a very positive effect for me. When I lived in Chicago, I did not have a lot of experiences. However, now I'm on the West Coast, and I'm trying to connect as much as I can. I'm looking for more experiences. I saw Kraft at ECETI. I had an experience with Junior, and I recalled like my scary days. I asked for it, and then all of a sudden I felt that he was around. I go, I'm sorry, Junior, I'm not ready. And I ran away. I was like, shoot. So I left him a lot of apples the next day, which he took. That was a lot of them, wasn't it?
I'd become curious why when I was younger, certain beings would step forward and then suddenly they were like gone, they stepped back, and others stepped forward. One of them would be a being named Mana that looked like a brain was exposed on the outside, looks quite similar to what we call brain coral here on Earth. And after thinking this, how come I don't see this being anymore? After multiple times as a kid, I wake up one morning with the stuff going through my mind, bleaching, coral bleaching. And I didn't know what that was. I started finding out what actually the coral that's dying in the Great Barrier Reef is and what's happening, and it took me into something that is also called supercoral. And supercoral is resistant to the bleaching that's happening. So are we dealing with the species? I wondered why Mana was interacting with the Earth matrix. So is this a species that is from the future that goes out like supercoral, or is it from the past and then went galactic? Either way, it's entrapped with the interacting with the Earth matrix, and I was very curious about that, and that's information that still comes through, still being in tune. It's not always being beamed up and being on board a craft as I got older. Now it's the information that comes through telethought.
Okay, my first connection was when I started channeling. Actually, it was the day when I brought in a being to channel. I could feel the grays. Like after I channeled a gray, but after I channeled them, I could feel them above me, like in a ship. I could actually see them feel them walking around. It was only for a little bit. At that time, my crown chakra was lighting up. So basically, they're opening it up. There was another time, about 6 months later, I was going to go to a park just to connect and just clear. And on the way, on the highway, I felt a ship, a Palladian ship. And you actually feel the passengers in the, flying it. You can feel the ship even move, but just for a couple of seconds. But something like that, it's hard to forget. There's another one where I was at Universal Studios. I was channeling. Give you a bit. Before that, I was going to do like a Illuminati. I was going to go through the Illuminati names and channel those, go and just channel it. But before, I was going to do that. That was my plan. And I went to Universal Studios to channel. And I was in the California area, the New York, Hollywood area. And I was about to connect, and then I felt someone talking, like actually talking through another dimension. Talk about UFO disclosure, and it was like a Palladian being. It was very, very. It was like the nicest. It was like the nicest being you can be around.
So here I'm at the Starseed Adventure Conference, and I'm talking about what happened to me a long time ago. I basically did a 20-year tour. Some people call it a career return. Some people call it a 20 and back. I was basically taken at some point. I was about 10 years old, and I was taken, and I lived for 20 years in the service of a bunch of black programs, black projects that were firstly government run, and then sold off midway, about 6 years into the secret space program that were off-world colonies. And I lived amongst a couple of them and ended up working as a cargo engineer on an interstellar trade ship from the planetoid Ceres, which is in between Mars and the asteroid belt. And I lived there for like 12 years of that time and was put back. And then through it, it's a process that a lot of other people have covered better than I can about the age regression, and they put you back. And I basically woke up the next day in my bed back to 10 years old. So however they do the technology behind that is there other people, like I said, can explain it better. And I went back to my life, and I was different, and I had weird, quirks about me ever after. Fast forward to 2015, I got an MRI scan of my head, and just coincidentally, a couple weeks later, I learned about the 20 and back program and a lot of fragmented memories that I'd always had about, firstly, being abducted, an ET abduction in my room, and just other things, just bits and snippets of when I was in space that I always remembered, but it didn't make sense. All of a sudden, all that stuff came back to me, and I accepted it. And I went, "Oh my God, that happened. That was real." And I began to work with some few researchers. And what happened was, instead of being disproved, things that I remembered checked out, and it snowballed. And here I am talking about it. So this is a real thing. It's a very tall cliff to jump off with your belief if you're a normal person in the mainstream, but it's a real thing. These are real technologies that our governments and secret corporate governments have traded with ETs for this kind of technology, and it's going on today. And they rely on it for themselves, and in some regards it's run amok, and these are things that they're going to have to disclose, and pretty quick. We're going to get a disclosure soon. So.